Hello, this is the first episode of our video log for djedtaroth website. I'm going to publish it every month, starting with this very general tarot reading for all the star signs, and then going through every separate individual star sign that that I'll describe in a more detailed way what to expect in every month. Now, this reading is going to be about the mood and general energies in February 2018. This is, as I said, this is very general, so it's going to be about all of us, everybody that can actually help us to identify the characteristics of what is going on in the month that is coming. And I'm going to usually put it in 6 cards, which is about how do we feel about ourselves, so the aura of everything that is going on around our emotions and everything about our relationships with ourselves. The second one is about what we really want, what are the needs that we have in this month. The third card will be about our fears. The fourth card is basically prediction, what kind of obstacles we might have, or what is going to basically happen, or what will unfold during this coming month. And the fifth card is going to be about more specific details of the obstacles and their character. And the last card is the outcome, the likely outcome of our endeavors and everything what we're going to do in this month. So let me shuffle the cards now. Right. Okay, so let's do it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right. So the first one is, how do we feel about ourselves? The card that is here is is 2 cups. Yeah. 2 cups is a very interesting card. It shows us the value of the communication, the value of how do we relate to each other. If you look at this card, there's a depiction of a man and a woman exchanging cups in what appears to be a wedding ceremony, with Caduceus of Hermes. As we know, Hermes, Mercury, was the symbol of communication, everything that is related to mercantile connections. It's there is a lion head just over Caduceus, and that's the symbol of passion and fire energy, suggesting there may be a lot of sexual attraction between the people. How can we relate the meaning of this card to basically to what we feel as about ourselves? Well, I guess the aura of this month is basically about dealing with other people and communication in terms of establishing our principles and our values towards other people, and also it's about basically coexistence of everybody within our world. It's I think it's about mutual balance, mutual respect and harmony with the relations with one another, and that's very important because normally when we think about relations, we think about our needs and our problems, but here I think it really helps us to understand other person through what they really need, what they really want to. It's also about the experience of harmony and love between people. When it comes to when it comes to the problems that can occur here, is just basically about dissonance and everything that comes along with feeling of uneasiness when it comes to dealing with other people's needs. So that might be a very useful hint and key to understand what is the general energy of how we feel about ourselves in this month. Now, Ace of Cups. Ace of Cups is the next card here. Ace of Cups is basically a card that helps us to understand anything that is influence and energy of something that dwells deep inside ourselves. It's about self-communication. It's about the dialogue that stems from how we feel about ourselves. It also represents anything that is basically about spiritual energy that helps us to understand the difference between knowing and understanding, because normally when we think about acknowledging certain things, we don't necessarily know what we think this means. We just take it for granted. This is basically the card that helps us to understand what might be our real knowledge. What does it mean to basically understand and be aware of certain things in terms of our own experience? So it's basically about gaining a knowledge of the actual essence of the situation, the meaning of it all. I guess we can relate that card to situations when we basically trying to be objective, but we are not, because we don't grasp the idea behind the events, behind the situation, and that makes it a little bit difficult for us to grasp. Okay. The next card is King of Swords. Yes, King of Swords here. The context of it is obviously our fears. As I said about the Ace of Cups, it's about grasping the idea, the essence of something. That's what we really want right now. So maybe the energy or behind this card is about understanding the idea of certain things in terms of revealing the meaning of things that have we've been dwelling on last year and beginning of this year and the first month of 2018, which is January. Ace of Cups here is our fears. In terms of Ace of Cups, there's a great deal of substance that is about knowledge. When it comes to King of Swords and our fears, it's basically the fear of of clarity. King of Swords is a very powerful card, and as about the symbol of intellectual power and authority, and the courage to accomplish all the desires. So it's a very stern but fair role, and with the clarity of the mind and perception of the truth, right now we can take the lead and provide the objective for the point of view, and well positioned to judge our situation and appropriately identify the limiting behaviors that are getting into the way. What I mean by that is just King of Swords is a powerful card to understand the fear of basically losing the control over what we develop in our daily lives. All the projects, all the fulfillment of desires. We quite often lose the power of the control. The question is, do we really need to control it? And instead of controlling it, do we really feel responsible for all this, what we have in our lives, and what we are dealing with? So a hint, an intellectual hint coming from this card is basically commanding yourself into a position where fears of losing control are no longer something that governs our behavior, and it's not about something that basically rules out all the possibilities of positive outcome. Is just basically about understanding that with the right attitude and the mindset, our fears can be overcome. So and that's the basic understanding of this card in this setup. The next card is Four of Cups. Four of Cups here, as as I said before, and the fourth card is going to be basically about what is going on for us, and what kind of events might occur during this month. Four of Cups is a very, very special card in terms of understanding where where our problems come from. The symbol of Four of Cups is very special. It's it's basically young men sitting under a tree far away from others, and it looks like it's deep contemplation of what is basically happening. Four of Cups is a predicament of something that may suggest a story of Buddha under a Bodhi tree contemplating the state of universe, and unwilling to basically rise until he has learned the actual wisdom of the universe. As we can see, there is a cup there, and there's an extra in a separate cup that is being offered by unknown force to this man sitting under a tree. If we would like to translate this into the idea of the nature of events that are happening in this month, it's basically about us being dissatisfied with the status quo of things, and feeling that life has become a little bit stale and flat. So there is little excitement at the moment, and there is little things that can be basically used as a pure enjoyment. But actually, this card is basically talking about what feels like a path to knowledge through learning to understand the fact that, you know, sometimes we need a little bit of contemplation, and we need a little bit of stagnation, or you know, passive moment where we don't necessarily need to do something, but it's just, you know, analyze our obstacles and our limitations, and this card is also points out to defensiveness. So, you know, as we look at this card, there is, you know, this yes, as you can see, this man has his arms folded, which basically means that his self-defense is a very major thing here. If I could translate this to, you know, to what I said before about the nature of the events in this month, is just basically about opportunities that we are ignoring or declining, and we often ask ourselves whether this is because we truly believe we would benefit from it, or whether this is just because of you know, of something else. I guess the hint here is just being mindful to any form or any sort of defensiveness, and when it comes to responses or reactions, and at its worst, 4 cups is basically symbolizing stubbornness and ungratefulness and self-absorption, whether we are off in our own little world, depressed or selfish, or afraid to reach out, or nursing wounds from bad relationships. So basically, this card is a hint towards understanding those, you know, the limitations and the obstacles coming from ourselves, and the ones that basically live within ourselves. So that's the general idea of events in this month. And the next card is Two of Wands. As I said before, the next card is basically about our obstacles. That's very, very important. What is going on, well, against us, right? I guess with all the cards that we basically use to read, it's very important to understand that there is no negative outcome. It's always a chance to learn something, rather than, you know, just having something completely negative, because, you know, it's just a dualism that doesn't really help us. With with this card is basically understanding that this is a mature way and the actual path towards thinking and understanding of what is basically outside of our comfort zone. Comfort zone is basically about relying on things we know, and these things don't necessarily exist here. So February might be a little bit challenging when it comes to to consider what are the general obstacles during our long-term goals and aspirations. And I think being very stern and being very hardworking is basically the idea to help us with any aspirations, anything that we are planning ahead, so we can achieve certain goals. There is a hint here to basically expand our learning and development and to grow our horizons beyond something that is basically immediate, like immediate environment. So it's basically a hint towards thinking outside the box. The last card is very interesting. It's a likely outcome. The likely outcome here in this reading has been 5 of Cups, and 5 of Cups is a card that signifies usually some sort of loss or difficulty or challenging with that loss. Well, it's basically focusing on something that we might think that is very depressive, and it's basically dealing with unfulfillment. I would say this is basically the card that is related to the card before. How we work out our future plans and everything that lies ahead is basically how we will deal in the future when it comes to our loss or things which are not necessarily fulfilled. So if we have the ability to recover after emotional loss, then we might feel obviously a little bit disappointed, but it also helps us to understand and achieve this ability to help us understand that losing is not necessarily something that is predictable. Losing is obviously not something that is bad, because it helps us to understand that we can plan in a different way, and plan incorporating also anything that is basically a loss, a minus, or part of this mathematical equation that basically helps us to find our own way towards finding the best solution to our problems. So this is basically the reading for the general reading for February. I hope you find it useful. I think this video is good, basically to listen to watch again and dwell on it a little bit. I would like to invite you to my Facebook page, djedtaroth, and you can find me on Twitter as well. If you have any queries, if you have any requests or questions, just contact me through djedtaroth@gmail.com. Thank you.